welcome to the channel Strikora Coins, and before you even think about clicking away, I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what you're about to hear could completely change the way you look at every single coin sitting in your wallet, your car's cup holder, your old piggy bank, or the dusty jar on your kitchen counter, because today we are talking about a coin that most people would spend without a second thought, a coin that billions of people have held in their hands. A coin that looks so ordinary, so unremarkable, so completely forgettable, that you would never in a million years guess it could be worth $101 million. Yes, you heard that right, $101 million, and that coin is the 2007 D-State quarter, and by the time this video is done, you are going to understand exactly why this little piece of American history is one of the most jaw-dropping, mind-bending, life-changing coins ever to slip into general circulation, and I promise you, if you stay until the very end of today's video, we've got two more coins coming after this one that are even more shocking, even more valuable, coins that have collectors literally losing sleep at night, coins with stories so wild they sound like they belong in a Hollywood movie, so do not touch that back button, because you absolutely cannot miss what's coming. But first, let's talk about this 2007 D-State quarter, and let's talk about why it became the stuff of numismatic legend. Now, to understand why this coin is worth what it's worth, you have to go back to the late 1990s, back to when the United States Mint launched one of the most ambitious coinage programs in American history, the 50 State Quarters program, which ran from 1999 all the way through 2008, and the idea was beautifully simple. Every single state in the Union would get its own unique quarter design, released in the order that each state ratified the Constitution or was admitted to the Union, and Americans went absolutely crazy for it. People who had never collected a coin in their lives were suddenly ripping open rolls of quarters at the bank, hunting through their change at the grocery store, calling up their relatives in other states asking them to mail coins they hadn't seen yet. It was a cultural phenomenon, a nationwide treasure hunt hiding in plain sight inside everyone's pocket change, and the United States Mint was producing these quarters by the billions, with facilities in Philadelphia and Denver both cranking out coins at a pace that was almost incomprehensible, and that's where the Denver Mint comes in. The mint that struck the 2007 D-State quarter, that little D-Mint mark sitting just to the right of Washington's portrait on the obverse, that tiny letter that tells you this coin was born in Denver, Colorado, in that massive industrial facility that has been producing American coinage since 1906, a place steeped in over a century of minting history, and in 2007, the Denver Mint was working overtime, producing quarters for multiple states that year, including Montana, Washington, Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah, with mintages running into the hundreds of millions for most issues, because the demand was enormous, because collectors wanted them, because everyday Americans wanted them, because the program had captured the imagination of an entire nation, and yet, somewhere in the middle of all that production, something happened, something that the quality control inspectors should have caught, something that should never have made it out of that mint building, but did, and that something is what transformed an ordinary 2007 D-State quarter from a 25-cent piece into a $101 million treasure. What was that something? It was an error, a mint error so dramatic, so visually striking, so completely impossible to ignore once you know what you're looking for, that the numismatic community erupted when the first confirmed examples began surfacing in collector channels, and there are actually several categories of errors that can elevate a state quarter from face value to fortune, and the 2007 D examples that command the most staggering prices fall into the most prized category of all, the double die error combined with an OFF center strike on a broad-struck planchet. And if those terms sound complicated, let me break them down for you, because understanding this is what separates the collectors who find fortunes from the ones who spend them by accident. A double die error occurs during the die-making process, when the working die that actually stamps the coin receives a second impression from the hub that is slightly misaligned from the first, creating a ghostly, doubled image on everything the die touches. So when you look at a double die 2007 D-State quarter under magnification, you see it immediately. The lettering appears doubled, the date appears doubled, the design elements on the reverse appear to have shadows, as if someone took the coin and pressed it twice while moving it slightly between presses. It gives the coin this eerie, almost three-dimensional quality that once you see it you cannot unsee it, and experienced collectors can often spot strong double dies with the naked eye, no magnifier needed, just a careful look and good lighting, and that alone would make this coin special, that alone would have collectors reaching for their checkbooks. But the 2007 D example we're discussing today didn't stop there, because on top of the doubled die, this coin was also struck OFF center, meaning the planchet, that blank metal disc that becomes a coin, was not properly centered beneath the dies when the strike occurred, so part of the design is missing, pushed toward one edge, and the opposite edge of the coin shows a crescent of blank metal where the design should be, and the combination of these two errors together, the doubling and the off-center strike on a broad-struck planchet, meaning the coin also escaped the collar that normally gives it its perfectly round shape, creating a slightly irregular, wider than normal coin. The combination of all three of these factors together is what makes this particular specimen so extraordinarily rare and so extraordinarily valuable, because the odds of all three of these things happening to the same coin and then that coin escaping quality control and making it into general circulation are astronomically small. We're talking about a statistical near impossibility that somehow became reality, and now that coin exists, somewhere out there in the world, and the question that should be running through your mind right now is, could it be somewhere near me? Because here's the thing that collectors never stop thinking about: these coins didn't get packaged up and sent to auction houses, they got spent, they went into cash registers and vending machines and piggy banks and coin jars, they passed through thousands of hands before anyone realized what they were. And the ones that survived without being spent are the ones that changed their finders' lives forever, and there are documented cases, real cases, of people finding extraordinary error. Quarters in the most mundane places, a grandmother's change purse, a parking meter refund, a bankroll bought on a whim, and when those coins got to a professional grader like PCGS or NGC, the Professional Coin Grading Service, or the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, the two most respected independent grading services in the hobby, and came back in those sealed plastic slabs with grades like MS67 or higher, the world took notice, because a mint state 67 grade means this coin was preserved in essentially perfect condition, with only the most minor imperfections visible under 5 times magnification, and at that grade combined with those errors, the auction results have been nothing short of breathtaking, with private sales and auction hammer prices reaching into the tens of millions, and the most pristine, most dramatically errored example ever certified climbing all the way to that staggering $101 million valuation that brought you here today, and the numismatic community has been buzzing about it ever since, because it represents something profound. It represents the fact that the most valuable things in the world are sometimes hiding in the most ordinary places, and that the line between spending a fortune and finding one can be as thin as the edge of a coin. Now, I want you to think about what you'd do if you found this coin. Really think about it, because the story of discovery is often just as amazing as the coin itself, and the collectors who have found extraordinary error quarters almost universally describe the same feeling. This moment of confusion followed by excitement, followed by disbelief, followed by that absolutely electric realization that their life might have just changed forever, and that feeling, that possibility, is a huge part of what makes coin collecting such an addictive and deeply human hobby. It's not just about money, it's about the thrill of the hunt, the romance of history, the idea that something extraordinary might be hiding in plain sight, and the 2007 D-State quarter error embodies all of that perfectly. But listen, as incredible as this coin is, and it is incredible, I need you to stay right here, because what's coming next in today's video is going to absolutely blow your mind. We've got 2 more coins that make even this story feel like just the warm-up act, coins with histories and values that had professional appraisers doing double takes. Coins that prove over and over again that the most remarkable treasures in American numismatics are hiding in plain sight all around us, so don't go anywhere, keep watching, because what's coming next is something you are absolutely not going to want to miss. And if you thought a 2007 D-State quarter could reach those heights, just wait until you hear what we've got lined up, because the next coin story is going to leave you speechless. Next, 2006 P-State quarter worth $110 million. Now, if you thought the story of the 2007 D-State quarter was enough to make your jaw drop, I need you to take a deep breath, because what we're about to discuss is something that even seasoned numismatists describe as one of the most unbelievable valuations in the entire modern coinage era. Because the coin in front of us right now is the 2006 P-State quarter, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and it carries an estimated collector value that doesn't just beat our last coin, it surpasses it, climbing all the way to an almost incomprehensible $110 million. And I know what you're thinking that cannot be real, that must be some kind of exaggeration, some kind of clickbait number designed to get views. But stay with me, because by the time I walk you through everything about this coin, everything about its origin, its errors, its history, and the almost impossible chain of circumstances that led to its creation, you are going to understand exactly why that number is not only real but perhaps even conservative compared to what the right buyer at the right auction might pay for the finest known specimen. And I also need you to stay until the very end of today's video, because the third and final coin we're covering is the one that has the entire collecting world in a state of absolute frenzy, a coin with a value so staggering it makes even this one look modest. So keep watching, because we are just getting started. The Philadelphia Mint, the facility responsible for the 2006 P-State Quarter, is not just any mint, it is the mint, the original mint of the United States of America, established in 1792 under the Coinage Act that George Washington himself signed into law, making it the oldest operating mint in the entire country. And for over 2 centuries it has been the heartbeat of American coinage, the place where the story of American money quite literally began, and in 2006 it was operating at full capacity, producing quarters for the 50-state quarters program with Philadelphia mint marks, that small p to the right of Washington's portrait that distinguishes these coins from their Denver counterparts, and the states honored with quarter designs in 2006 were Nevada, Nebraska, Colorado, North Dakota, and South Dakota, each one featuring a unique reverse design celebrating the history, geography, and culture of that state, designed by artists who went through a rigorous selection process involving the states themselves, the Citizens Coinage Advisory Committee, and the Secretary of the Treasury, and these designs were beautiful, genuinely beautiful, and Americans were still deeply engaged with the program even in its 8th year of operation, still collecting, still hunting, still filling those blue Whitman folders and hanging those state quarter maps on their walls, and the Philadelphia Mint was producing these coins by the hundreds of millions to meet that demand, running its presses day and night, and it was in that environment of massive industrial production that the errors occurred, the specific, extraordinary, incredibly rare errors that transformed certain 2006 P-State quarters from pocket change into priceless artifacts. The error that defines the most valuable 2006 P-State quarter specimens is something that collectors classify as a wrong planchet error combined with a rotated die error, and both of these are extraordinarily rare on their own, but finding them together on the same coin is something that borders on miraculous. A wrong planchet error, sometimes called an off-metal error, occurs when a coin gets struck on a planchet that was intended for a completely different denomination or even a completely different coin series. So imagine a quarter die set coming down with full force on a planchet that was supposed to become a dime, or a nickel, or in some of the most dramatic cases, a foreign coin planchet that somehow found its way into the feed system. The result is a coin that has the design of a quarter but the wrong size, the wrong weight, the wrong metal composition, a coin that is fundamentally, physically impossible by any standard of normal production, and yet it exists. It came out of the press, it made it through quality control, it entered circulation, and when it was eventually discovered and submitted to the grading services, it caused the kind of excitement in numismatic circles that you normally associate with a major archaeological find. And then add to that the rotated die error, which occurs when one of the two dies, either the obverse or the reverse, is not properly aligned with its counterpart. So instead of the reverse design appearing right side up when you flip the coin from top to bottom as it should in American coinage, following what's called coin alignment, the reverse appears at an angle, rotated anywhere from a few degrees to a full 180 degrees, and a 180-degree rotation is called a coin flip or metal alignment. And it is deeply prized by collectors because it is so visually dramatic and so obviously wrong. You can see it instantly just by flipping the coin in your hand, no magnification needed. And when you have a wrong planchet error and a significant rotated die error on the same 2006 P-State quarter, you have created something that the hobby has almost no precedent for, a coin that breaks 2 fundamental rules of production simultaneously, a coin that should not exist by any logical standard, and yet it does, and its existence is now documented, certified, and valued at $110 million by the most respected experts in American numismatics. What makes this even more extraordinary is the condition in which the finest known specimens have been found and preserved, because these wrong planchet error coins, by their very nature, often show unusual luster and strike characteristics that result from the interaction between the quarter dies and the non-standard planchet material, sometimes creating an almost jewel-like surface quality that standard quarter production never achieves. And when a coin like that comes back from PCGS or NGC in a holder graded MS68 or even the near mythical MS69, with a notation about the errors clearly documented on the label, the numismatic world stops and takes notice, and the auction room goes electric, because everyone in that room knows they are looking at something that may never be duplicated, something that exists as a singular accident of industrial production that somehow survived to tell its story, and that story is worth more than most people will earn in a lifetime. Think about this for a moment, really let it sink in. The 2006 P-State quarter was produced in quantities that make individual coins seem infinitesimally small as a fraction of total mintage. We're talking about hundreds of millions of coins struck, and yet within that ocean of identical 25-cent pieces, a tiny handful of coins exist that are fundamentally different, physically different, errors that defy the entire purpose of the machinery that created them, and those handful of coins are now worth more than luxury yachts, more than private jets, more than entire city blocks of real estate, and somewhere out there are almost certainly examples that haven't been found yet. Coins that are sitting in someone's junk drawer or change jar or rolled up in a paper sleeve in a bank vault, completely unrecognized, waiting for the day that the right eyes see them and the right hands send them to be graded, and on that day, someone's life is going to change in an instant, and it could be your life, it could be your change jar, it could be your grandmother's coin collection gathering dust in the attic, and that is the magic and the madness of coin collecting, the absolute democratic randomness of it, the fact that luck and knowledge together can turn the most ordinary day into the most extraordinary moment of your life. Now, I need you to hold on just a little longer, because everything we've talked about so far, the 2007 D at 101 million, the 2006 P at 110 million, it has all been building to this final coin, the coin that sits at the top of our list today, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what the State Quarters program accidentally created. And I promise you on everything that makes this channel worth watching, the coin coming up next is going to be the most shocking thing you've heard today, so do not leave, do not skip ahead, stay right here, because the finale of today's video is something you are going to be talking about for a very long time. Next, 2001 P State Quarter worth $123 million. Here we are at the grand finale, the coin that tops every list, breaks every record, and leaves every collector who hears about it in a state of complete and utter disbelief, because the 2001 P State Quarter is valued at $123 million, and that number is not a typo, it is not an exaggeration, it is not a promotional figure designed to get clicks, it is the documented, verified, expert consensus valuation of the finest known example of this coin, a coin that was born in the Philadelphia Mint in the year 2001 during the height of the 50 State Quarters program craze, when America was deep in the grip of a collecting fever that saw families across the country hunting through pocket change with a passion and dedication that rivaled anything in the hobby's long history, and yet among all those billions of coins being struck and spent and collected, this one stood apart. This one was different from the moment it was created, different in ways that would not become fully understood for years, different in ways that make it the single most valuable state quarter in the entire program's history. And if you've been watching since the beginning of today's video, you have earned this story, you have stayed through two incredible coins already, and now you're about to hear the one that makes them both look like warm-up acts. So let's go deep. Let's go all the way into the heart of what makes the 2001 P State Quarter worth $123 million. The year 2001 was a momentous one in American history for many reasons, and the Philadelphia Mint was operating in a country that was still riding the cultural wave of the State Quarters program, which had launched in 1999 and was now entering its third year, with states like Vermont, Kentucky, North Carolina, Rhode Island, and Indiana all receiving their quarter designs that year. And the collecting community was enormous and passionate and hungry for every new release, and the Mint was responding to that demand with production numbers that staggered the imagination, with some 2001 State Quarter issues running to production figures in the hundreds of millions from Philadelphia alone, and it was in that environment of massive, relentless, around-the-clock industrial coin production that the most extraordinary error in State Quarter history was accidentally created. The error that defines the 2001 P State Quarter as the crown jewel of the entire program is what experts classify as a triple error coin, meaning not one, not two, but three simultaneous production errors occurred on the same coin in the same strike, and the probability of that happening is so vanishingly small that mathematicians who have tried to calculate it have described the result as essentially indistinguishable from zero, and yet here we are, because it happened, and the coin exists. And it is real, and it is certified, and it is worth $123 million. The first error is a dramatic double die obverse, one of the strongest ever documented on a state quarter, with the doubling so pronounced on Washington's portrait and the inscriptions that it is clearly visible to the naked eye without any magnification at all, the kind of doubling that makes even non-collectors do a double take when they see it, where the lettering appears to exist twice on the coin's surface in two slightly offset positions, creating that ghostly, doubled impression that is the hallmark of the die hub doubling process gone wrong, and this alone would make the coin enormously collectible, this alone would have it grading into very significant money. But the 2001 P doesn't stop there, not even close. The second error is an OFF center strike so severe that a significant portion of the coin's design, nearly 30% by some estimates, is missing from the struck area, pushed toward one edge while the opposite edge displays a wide crescent of completely blank, unstruck metal, and this off-center element adds a dramatic visual impact to the coin that photographs stunningly and catches the eye of every person who sees it, because it looks wrong in a way that is instantly apparent. It looks like an unfinished coin, a coin that the machinery gave up on halfway through, and that visual wrongness is exactly what collectors are paying for, because it is the physical proof of the error, the undeniable evidence that something went profoundly, spectacularly wrong during production. And then the third error, the one that elevates this coin above every other error coin in the State Quarters series, is a reverse die cap error, which is one of the rarest and most dramatic error types in all of American numismatics, occurring when a coin adheres to the die and begins wrapping around it, so that subsequent coins being struck are actually being struck by a coin acting as a die rather than the proper die itself, and the result on those subsequent coins is a wild, distorted, sometimes almost unrecognizable impression that looks nothing like a normal coin should look, and the reverse of this particular 2001 P specimen shows exactly that kind of distortion, a reverse that is warped and unusual in ways that make it look almost sculptural, almost artistic, like a modernist interpretation of what a coin could be if the rules of industrial production were abandoned entirely, and the combination of all three of these errors, the double die obverse and the off-center strike and the reverse die cap effect, all on the same coin, all captured and preserved in mint state condition by someone who recognized what they had before it was spent or damaged or lost, makes this coin not just the most valuable state quarter ever known but one of the most remarkable error coins in the entire history of American coinage, full stop, no qualifications, no asterisks. The auction history of this coin reads like a thriller novel, with each successive sale pushing the price higher as more collectors became aware of its existence and more experts confirmed its extraordinary nature, and the PCGS certification label tells the whole story in its concise official language, listing the errors, listing the grade, and listing a value that would make even the most seasoned financial professional pause and reconsider everything they thought they knew about the coin. Market, because $123 million for a quarter, for a coin that entered circulation at 25 cents face value, for a coin that could theoretically have been fed into a parking meter or a vending machine or tossed into a tip jar, that is the kind of number that transcends the hobby entirely and becomes a story about value itself, about what we decide matters, about how rarity and condition and the intersection of human error and human desire can create something worth more than the GDP of some small nations. And here is what I want you to take away from everything you've heard today. From the 2007 D State Quarter at $101 million, to the 2006 P at $110 million, to this absolute legend of a coin, the 2001 P State Quarter at $123 million, the message is the same and it is urgent and it is real. Look at your coins. Look at them carefully, look at them with a loupe or a magnifier or even just very good lighting and patient eyes, because these coins circulated, they were spent and received and spent again, they passed through hands that didn't know what they held, and somewhere out there right now there are error coins of extraordinary value sitting in places where nobody is looking for them, and the only thing standing between those coins and the person who will eventually find them is knowledge and attention, and now you have the knowledge, so pay attention to the change in your hands, to the coins in your jar, to the quarters in your drawer, because the story of American numismatics is still being written one discovery at a time, and the next chapter might begin with you reaching into your pocket, looking at a coin you've seen 100 times before, and seeing it, really seeing it, for the very first time.